Brandon, you won't believe what I found. I was partying around on the internet there, and in these really weird Eastern European websites that you really have to look for. I found footage of our good friends Milos and Borsty. They used to host like a film review show.
What?
Yeah, man, you want to check it out?
Press play.
All right, hit the button, Frank. Oh, hello. Welcome to At the Movies with Milos and Borsty. I am, of course, Milos. With me, my cousin Borsty.
Hello.
Yes, and today we are talking about new American hit Jean-Claude Van Damme in Lionheart.
Milos, I thought you told me we were going to be talking about Home Alone.
No, I know you are obsessed with Small Toe-Headed Child. However, there are other movies, Borsty.
I do hear good things.
Okay, all right, it's good. I'm sure he will not end up with a lunatic for a stage father.
No,
Small child actor, I mean.
That is ridiculous.
It would never happen.
Child actors are historically known for adapting well.
Yes, exactly. But enough of child actors. We thought, well, maybe because their child actor in this movie, who was on that show, Growing Pains.
Oh.
Yes, but this movie is filled with action and drama and more bloodied heads than a Gorbachev family reunion.
We can say that now.
Oh yes, because we are free. Incidentally, Borsty and I, we go see this movie in Berlin in his much shorter trip now without wall.
Not have to go around anymore.
That's right. Much fewer cavity searches.
Well, fewer.
Fewer, of course. Yes. I enjoyed the movie immensely. I liked the fighting for family part. However, I could not hardly understand the wrestling manager fellow who was with Jean-Claude Van Damme in the movie.
Ridiculous accent. Waivers between different ones.
Changes from time to time. However, the Legionnaires, spot on.
Yes, could not be more accurate.
I would give this movie 3 out of 5 turnips.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Would you disagree, Borsty?
Not enough Macaulay Culkin.
That is, I guess, fair assessment, but that aside, what would you give out of turnip?
Were there turnips in film?
He was on a tram steamer, so probably at least at some point.
Okay, tram steamer full of turnip.
That is a lot more than the 3 that I give, but you were giving a tram steamer full of turnips?
That's right, man.
Oh, okay. Borsty is clearly needing to go and have a cigarette. We will take leave of you now. But I have been Milos. This is my cousin Borsty at the movies. Until next week, balcony is closed.
You know when I pick a movie, that's when I'm under pressure now. The question always comes back to me, what were they thinking now? Whoa, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Wow. Oh, that was interesting.
Something out of turnip.
Yeah, that's quite a rating system. I guess it's one step above us, as we don't really have a rating system.
Well, we used to. It made as much sense.
It did, and it changed 5 times a week.
Probably.
And that's when we did episodes every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm Brendan.
I'm Nathan.
And this is What Were They Thinking?
Mm-hmm.
A podcast about bad to questionable movies.
And this one I think is more questionable than anything.
It's ridiculous.
Very much so.
It's definitely ridiculous.
And also apparently exists in the same cinematic universe as American Ninja.
Okay.
Well, don't you remember that in the movie Jean-Claude Van Damme joins the French Foreign Legion so as to avoid jail time?
Is that what that... Okay. Well, we're going to get into it, but this movie is called Lionheart, also known as Leon, the version I watched for some reason, which I was like Leon, but not the professional.
But not the professional.
Leon the amateur.
Amateur underground fighter.
That's right. Yeah, okay, so I do want to get... Okay, let's just get into that right away, because I thought at the beginning, so when he's in the French Foreign Legion, I didn't even get the part where he was there... because he was either going to go there or go to jail. I thought he was just with the French Foreign Legion, and so when they're like telling him like, you can't leave, I don't care who died, you fucking stay here, you piece of shit, I was like, the French Foreign Legion is not being presented in a positive light in this movie.
No, they are not.
But even it alleviates it a little more now, knowing that he was a prisoner. I didn't even catch that.
But it's weird. But see, that's the thing. He's not technically, because later in the movie they're gonna court-martial him and send him to like a gulag or a jail, because when they find him he's a deserter.
Yeah.
So it's this is why the concept of joining a military group to avoid jail time is ludicrous, because you're not going to jail, so they can't. If you join, I don't know how they could force you to stay. Mm-hmm. Right? And so, because he wanted to leave, I get that he left and would be charged as, AWOL and possibly a traitor. But I don't understand how they could be like, oh, and we're tacking on X amount of time because you were supposed to be in the Foreign Legion or the Army or whatever when you took off. Because it doesn't make any sense to me.
No, none of it made sense. And again, I don't think the French Foreign Legion, if any of them would have seen this movie, they'd be that pleased with it.
I got a fun little story about the French Foreign Legion. Unless you want to get into this, and we can come to that organically.
I mean, go for it.
Okay. Well, when I was in university, there was a chap who was in one of my classes who apparently was at one point in his life in the French Foreign Legion. And then he deserted the French Foreign Legion.
Okay.
And was, I was like, what do you mean you deserted? And he's like, yeah, no, I just left one day, and I never returned back for duty. I'm like, so you're a deserter? He's like, yeah, if they bothered to come looking for me and found me, I would be tried for it.
So
I'm like, are you Lionheart?
I was gonna say, did he enter a fighting tournament?
It's the only thing that came into my mind. It also helped that one of the guys who was also in our acting class was a gigantic Jean-Claude Van Damme fan.
Oh, excellent.
I'm rather a thin French Canadian chap who was also trained in martial arts was a big Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. Go figure.
I don't see the connection.
Yeah, right.
This movie was made... When was Bloodsport made? I think it was like 87, 88?
I think 88, because this was 1990, wasn't it?
Yeah, because this is a couple years after Jean-Claude kind of makes it big onto the scene. Because I think Bloodsport was like his big coming out party. Everyone was...
Bloodsport was his big one that he did for Canon. And then there was... He also did another movie for them called Black Eagle.
But I think Bloodsport was like his one that everyone kind of went like, oh, that guy, like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Everyone regards that as his major film debut, because that was the biggest role that he ever had, a big speaking role, and he was the good guy.
Yeah.
No retreat, no surrender type situations.
Yeah, not a huge part of in that movie. But this movie was made for about $6 million, which. Mm-hmm. It still seems like a modest budget for a movie at that time, especially considering, it's an action movie.
Well, considering that there's several times when they're shooting in like L.A. and Beverly Hills and stuff like that, and permits aren't cheap for shooting in places like that.
Correct. But it did make. I think you told me before that you looked this up, right?
It was like 24, almost 25 million.
Yeah, 24. So it made like 4 times its budget back, and maybe let's say they're not including like certain prices. It still probably made at least 3 times its budget back.
Yeah.
So that's nothing to shake a stick at.
No, and it's obviously the director got more work afterwards, and Van Damme did did quite well for himself after this too. But it's weird to think now that if a movie was made for such a small budget and made so much back that there would at least be talk of a sequel.
Yeah, and I think this is also like at least 3 or 4 years before Jean-Claude really went off the reservation with the addictions and everything.
Almost a decade.
Was it? I don't think. I think in mid '90s was when he had issues, though.
It was when he had issues, but things started. The wheels started falling off at around like 98, 97.
Was it that long? Because I heard he was having issues like even back when they were filming like Street Fighter.
Oh, he had issues, but what I mean is like the like his career trajectory.
Oh yeah.
Started to bottom out.
I just
towards
mean
the end
like
of the 90s.
Like the substance abuse stuff started in the mid 90s. I think that definitely helped or hindered him, I guess.
Yes.
But hot damn, Nathan, we need to jump into this because there is some fine baby making music throughout this whole thing. I think this soundtrack, and I'm just going to throw it out there as a wild theory, I think this soundtrack got me pregnant.
It was just all the saxophone.
Oh, just that saxophone all over the soundtrack.
And it's the thing is, that was kind of one of the cliched things that you went to with a lot of movies. I mean, yeah, this came out in 1990, but I mean, it's
80s.
It's 80s. Let's say
80s.
what it is. Yeah,
it feels like it's right in that magic area of like they hadn't quite come out of the 80s style of filmacking. And they weren't entering into the early 90s like look. I don't know.
Well, especially now in this one because it's so such a more modest budget, they'd be working with stuff that absolutely this is what we can afford because this is what exists and it's possibly last year's stuff.
Yeah, I feel like when you watch a movie, it's usually not that hard to figure out the year or at least around what year it was made. I totally thought this one. If nobody had told me, I would have said this one was like 85.
Really?
Like it felt very 80s, very like mid 80s. And the only reason I know it's not 85 is because obviously Bloodsport was a little later than that, but it did feel a few years older.
And Ashley Johnson's in it and she exists.
So how do we open? We open with the Leather Jacket Mafia.
Well, yes, there's okay, let me do the quick rundown before we break apart. Okay. Jean-Claude Van Damme plays a French foreign legionnaire named Léon Gaultier. And his brother is killed by some uncouth ne'er-do-well drug dealers, set ablaze, and
in hilarious fashion.
And unfortunately, he's left behind a wife and a daughter. Being in the Foreign Legion and Djibouti. Oh,
Djibouti?
Djibouti?
I believe the D is silent.
Oh, is it? All right. I never ever know with these things. And so he finds out what has happened to his brother. At this point, he thinks his brother's still alive and hightails it to America after breaking out of the Foreign Legion for some, I guess. And but of course, he ends up on the wrong side of America and has to enter some underground street fights so he can make his way to California and help his sister-in-law and his niece. Hilarity ensues.
Oh,
because all the while he's pursued by 2 folks from the French Foreign Legion who are like, I don't know, MPs or truant officers.
And every time they spot Van Damme, it's a madcap riot.
It really, really is. So, Let us begin with the 80th of 80s cliched. If you want set a gritty tone in a city that's supposed to be crime-ridden, you want that saxophone.
Ugh. Just all over this thing, like just crawling on this movie.
It's if you hear that sound, you know one or two things is going to happen in this movie. It's either going to be sexy, or it's going to be a gritty street crime,
or really sad because it comes in every type of scene.
Well, I mean, it was the style at the time.
That's when they call it. It could be a saxophone, it could be a sexophone, and it could be a satophone.
I mean, you think about it. One of the greatest sitcoms in the history of sitcoms. You know, their opener is just almost all saxophone. Of course, I am talking about Night Court. I got in trouble because of that show at school.
Well, maybe you shouldn't send naked photos to John Larroquette.
It wasn't so much that they didn't put him on the list because again, it was a different time. But
pedophilia was fine back then.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the guy from Jeepers Creepers. He went on to keep making movies.
Oh God. Yeah.
Anyhow, before we get off,
that was too recent, by the way. That's unfortunate.
The reason why I got in trouble because of Night Court in elementary school was because I did my impression of Bull whenever he said "okay." I said it to a teacher, and she thought I was being a Weisenheimer.
Oh.
Call my parents and everything. What a snitch.
So
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. So
Lionheart.
The opening drug deal.
It's sugar.
And this is gasoline.
Yeah, and they these terrible drug dealing guys just light up Jean-Claude Van Damme's brother.
We're just gonna say this right now. I believe I watched like a director's cut or extended version or something.
Yeah.
Because my cut was about 5 minutes longer than the one you watched on Tubi. Mm-hmm. This scene of him on fire goes on for a while.
Yeah, I've seen the extended cut too, and there's some things that were cut that they were right to cut.
and oh my God, his charred body just is like crazy. Like it's insane. I didn't expect, like I knew he was on fire obviously and everything, but like I didn't expect it to be that crazy. Like I noted right away too that if this took place in Canada, the conflict would be over immediately because his conflict is that he doesn't have health insurance.
Yep.
Done. Credits.
Did you did you notice the wacky writing credits for this thing?
When Leone came on screen?
Well, no. When this whole like the writing credits for it were like based on a screenplay by somebody, story by Jean-Claude Van Damme and somebody else, and then the screenplay itself was written by Van Damme and somebody else.
Yeah, I did see that.
It's like I'm surprised it turned out as well as it did.
Coherent, somewhat.
Yeah. I mean, it's foolish for the most part. There are things in this movie that are just like, oh my God, no.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So after this whole thing, what would we go to the French Foreign Legion where Leone is working?
Yeah. And we get up. We flash to Djibouti, South Africa.
Gotta catch them all.
Knew a girl who was nice enough to let me scream that afterwards.
Oh,
Djibouti.
You don't let those ones go.
You don't, So, Van Damme, we find out Leon Gautier is working in the French Foreign Legion. Now, we're not privy to why he's there in the first place. However, we do find out that, one, he gets a letter to say that his brother is in hospital. Two, he almost stabs the guy delivering the mail in the genitals.
I thought he did at first.
No. Because everybody's fine with him. He hasn't done anything yet,
right?
Except for asked for leave so he could go visit his sick brother, and his colonel is right schwanz, and is like, no, because I could be at war tomorrow, and I need you here, digging posts.
Yeah, not to mention too, super racist. Did you hear the quick slur he threw out there?
The Vogs.
Yeah.
Was he saying was okay? See,
WOG, yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I thought it was just a V.
Nope.
Okay.
It was the full-on, yeah.
Okay. Well, in another bit, when this movie finally made its rounds in theaters and then to video and then to premiere cable and stuff like that, when they finally got around to putting this on television, NBC showed it.
Oh, boy.
When I was a kid. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I was like, man, because we didn't have a copy of it at that point. And I was like, wow, I love that movie. I went to see this in theaters. My dad took me to see it because he's a great dad. And watching it at home, I'd forgotten how filthy it was, first of all. So all the swearing is edited out. But the interesting thing was when he says, I do not need this shizer, they edited that as well in the American cut for language.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting because I was like, oh, it's a German swear word, but I don't believe it falls under anything under the FCC as far as like swear words that aren't allowed on television.
They weren't taking any chances.
I guess not, eh?
Network TV back then was even more stringent, I think, than now.
Now don't you say anything bad about Brandon Tartikoff.
Hey. He single-handedly saved that network. I've got nothing bad
absolutely
to say.
did.
Yeah. How many other network heads host Saturday Night Live?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Finding out all this, they're going to stick him because they feel he's being insubordinate because he's asking for time off and saying this is garbage. His commanding officer he says, I think you have desert fever. I'm going to stick you in a hot box to break the fever. That's not how fevers work.
It sounds like that would make it worse.
Yes. In fact, you're usually encouraged to apply cold to it so as to bring the temperature of the person's body down.
I was a bit surprised that they had a sweat box.
Well, again, I don't necessarily know how accurate this is because of why Van Damme is there. But we'll get into that when we get into that. He's not going to the sweat box. No. He he beats up a bunch of guys who are nice enough to stand around and fight him one by one. Happens a lot in this movie.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say it happens a lot in general, but yes, especially in this movie. There are at least two other times right now that I can think of that happened.
They just stood and waited for him so they could be the next in line.
It's like you're watching, it's like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie.
Yeah.
The putties are just waiting.
So,
sorry, the foot soldiers, my bad.
The foot soldiers, yes.
Yeah.
So he...
Power Rangers.
The putties are from the Power Rangers, yes, they are. So he beats up a bunch of other Legionnaires and then runs off, steals a Jeep and runs off into the desert.
Stabs one too, by the way.
Stabs one in the hand, yes.
And then he's just like Lawrence of Arabia, his way through the desert.
Yep, just trotting along. He does manage to find his way to the nearest port city. And sneak onto. Well, not sneak onto. He gets passage on a tramp steamer where he has to stoke the boilers, so they'll take him to America.
Yeah.
Now he's in northern Africa, and he is. He's told that the ship will be sailing to Los Angeles,
right,
California. I'm guessing he's not very good with geography because it would be closer for them to sail to New York.
Yeah, I don't know why he was surprised by that.
Yeah,
because okay, so we're gonna have to find some way to go around and over, or we're going the opposite way. How else do you think we're gonna get to LA first?
Sail around the Horn to Madagascar and meet King Julian. So yeah, okay. So he's working time, shoveling this ship, however long it takes. Did you you watched the extended version? So I'm guessing there's a section coming up here with the first mate when they first arrive in America, and we know it's New York because the Twin Towers are still there. Mm-hmm. And he has a bit of a confrontation with the first mate on the ship. Yeah,
and he just he starts hammering on him, and I'm like, Jean-Claude is just fighting everyone.
And see, that's the thing in the shortened version, because I've seen both, but the one I watched for the show, so we could have this delightful Showgirls 2 dynamic. he just he roughs him up a little bit. He doesn't beat on or anything like that. He just kind of pushes him. He kind of says it's going to be real easy, and then he just shoves him. And then they cut to him jumping overboard into the water, into the Hudson.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're dead right now.
Yeah,
like that water would be so fucking cold.
But he actually scuffled. He fought a fair bit with the first mate in the cut. When you saw,
a little bit.
Yeah.
They scuffled a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and he's walking through the city and just like hugging himself. It's pretty adorable.
Yes. No one loves me here but me. No one loves me here but me.
And he also, I wrote that he calls apparently the forget about it phone operator because it's the most New York phone call I've ever heard.
Well, he was calling 9X.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that takes me back. So many things in this movie just give me the member berries so bad.
She's like, it's going to be like 40 cents, huh? Forget about it.
I'm from New York. I'm a New York operator. I work for 9X. So he stumbles upon the early beginnings of the New York underground grunge scene because a bunch of guys in plaid are fighting each other. Yeah. Or they're in a mosh pit or something.
Yeah, I wrote basically Bloodsport has just entered the film.
Yes.
I'm like watching this, having never seen this before. I'm like, I wonder how he's gonna find the drug deal. Oh, this is like Bloodsport now. Okay.
Bum fights. So I did notice there was an extra who I've seen in a lot of stuff before. I don't know the guy's name, but I know he played Big Bear in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Okay.
He did mocap for it, and I've seen him in a lot of stuff. It was just weird to see him in that, but beside the point. Let's see what I got here.
Well,
Big Bear.
He
fights OJ.
What?
Well, the guy looks like OJ.
Oh, okay.
It's not really OJ.
Like, how did I not notice that? No, he does, but yeah, he watches for a bit, and then he realizes like these guys are making money from winning street fights, so he's like, "Fuck, I'll do it." And he meets Joshua, who I had a hard time understanding. I want to say conservatively 70% of his dialogue.
So you caught all the swears.
Yeah, exactly. I caught the goddamn motherfucker, goddamn fuck shit.
Yeah.
Everything else.
It's about 70% of his dialogue.
Well, no, that's 30%. Everything else I didn't hear.
Okay.
His actual lines, I'm like, what?
Saw this movie so many times. Oh my God, he's like one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. It's just the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah, and this is not a slight against him or anything else, but he reminded me of like when I was watching the Bruce Willis movie 16 Blocks, and every time Mos Def spoke, I was like, huh? What? What? No. It's like it's like the early cuts of that Batman trailer where they had to fix Bane's voice because he was like, and we were like, huh?
What? No,
I would never talk like that. I would enunciate.
So what do I got here? We're in the underground fight. And oh my God, yes. It's funny what comes up next because he wants to Joshua wants to kind of convince him into doing better fights for more money.
Right.
And am I wrong? Are they served by the guy from Lost?
Are they served
at the taco truck?
Oh, that guy. I see where you're coming from, but I don't think he was alive. Okay, or he was very, very young.
It's either him or a guy who he played a tech on another CBS I don't know cop type show, and I was like I know I've seen him before, but I thought he was the guy from Lost. But why wouldn't he be alive at that point?
Well, maybe not alive, but I think he would have been. I think he
considerably younger.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
His name was like Jorge or something. I don't remember seeing him in the credits, but. You know.
Well, actually, that character didn't get a credit, because I searched through IMDb trying to find, and there was nothing there. Same as I was trying to find the guy that he fights next, who is basically a Bill Paxton knockoff.
Oh, is this where he goes to the rich person fighting circle?
Yes, because Joshua does kind of convince him to go with him so they can do it, so they can make more money, and they go to this fancy the Nakatomi Plaza, but in New York.
I do love how they walk in there, and he's very confident walking up to the desk. He's like, "I need to see her," and they're like, "You need to be more specific." He's like, "Come on, man! I came here to see her. Yep,
Goddamn.
I came here to see the lady, motherfucker. Come on, hook me up, bitch. Fuck."
Yep, that's Joshua. He's the best. He's the best. It was the only time he didn't swear when he was doing that fake insurance thing.
Yes, because I wrote down in that scene, which we'll obviously get to later, but I thought he was like channeling like the class of like Danny Glover.
Like he can actually act,
Yeah,
right?
it was so good.
So he has range. This is the only time he gets to stretch it in this movie.
This scene also features my favorite character, Square Jaw Scarface.
Oh God, what's his name?
I just told you.
Character act. No, like the the guy. He's been in a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah, he has a very distinct look.
Yeah. He's Cynthia's security guy.
He gives Jean-Claude a real intense up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, fuck, or fine, let's go. As if this is the most inconvenient part of his day.
Right.
And then, so you're saying they go to, like, the rich people circle while they're watching people fight. And we meet Cynthia, who, in my opinion, is the goddamn star of this movie.
Oh, she is. Well, if not her wardrobe.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. Brian Thompson, that's Square Jaw.
Right. Yeah,
You
he
know.
does show up in a lot of stuff.
Chin McBeef face.
Yeah.
He was in Cobra.
Oh, he was
And Joe Dirt.
Was he the disease in Cobra?
He was one of the Night Slashers, yes.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
thank God they found a cure.
Yeah, well, yeah, Cobra.
It's coming soon.
I hope. I'll watch that movie again. And he fights a guy who is, I don't know, I guess his name's Sonny. Who that name doesn't get a credit in the IMDb.
Yeah, and how would you describe this fight, Nathan?
Johnny Cage wins.
Just Goros him right in the balls.
Just right in the nuts. Which is funny because that character is based on Van Damme, and I'm pretty damn positive that Nut Punch was based on that scene in the movie.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that's a crazy connection. I thought of that too. I thought like Johnny Cage was a character. Yeah, it was based on Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do want to mention before they even fight is there's a part where he's just watching the fight before him, like Jean-Claude's watching, and this blonde girl is there, and she gets blood spattered on her chest, and then she seductively like licks part of the blood, and I'm like, bye.
Yeah, I have a note right now. Yeah, she has AIDS.
Yeah, no fucking fuck.
And probably
no.
the clap from her date.
Right? And
Because he looked like he had gonorrhea.
If I'm Jean-Claude in that scene, I was like, I was into you until now.
Right.
You just literally, you're, you know what? I'd only kink shame when it challenges my health.
I suppose.
And I'm not into blood play.
There you go.
Especially now, like, fuck that shit.
Yep.
1990, like, it had only started, 8 years prior? Like the AIDS outbreak? Come on.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about it actually being given a name, yeah. But I mean, if you're talking about the whole stuff, even the ramp up to it, it was, late 70s, early 80s.
I mean, I should say 8 years prior when people started becoming more aware of it.
Aware of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, unless you're from New Brunswick, then it was maybe like 2 or 3 years before that.
Or unless you're Ronald Reagan, in which case you denied it for like 7 years.
Yeah. So we're watching this, and we have failed to mention that Van Damme now has gone through 2 ring names.
Oh yeah.
Because when he shows up in New York, he says his name's Leon, and Joshua dubs him the Lion. And then when they show up to the Rich People Fight Club, or Rich People Watch Fight Club, I guess, he says, "This is the Lion, King of the Jungle," and Cynthia calls him Lionheart, and that's the one that sticks, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the Bruce Campbell Spider-Man moment.
Yeah.
It's like that's how he gets his name. Also, I love this movie's kind of road.
Also, you must have had like at least 4 broken ribs if Mariah was watching this with you, because they say his name a lot in this movie.
Thank God she wasn't in the room. I will say that I love this movie's Roadhouse-esque line here, where just before that fight happens, the dude looks at Jean-Claude and he's like, "You're kind of pretty. I don't know whether to fight you or fuck you."
Oh, you mean from Low Rent Bill Paxton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, if this goes the second route, I will be very surprised. That would be quite a twist.
Yeah.
And he
So
gets
yeah,
$5,000 from that fight?
$5,000 for punching a guy in the nuts.
Jesus. I'd be like, sorry, brother, I've got stuff to do.
And it's we get to hear him pronounce the word manager, which is fun. My manager.
Manager.
And she says, I can have you another fight in 2 days for better money.
Mm-hmm.
And he made $5,000 tonight. He wants to get to L.A. Okay? One more fight, and he's in L.A.
Right.
with money to spend.
Yeah, I know. But apparently he thinks he has enough money to go there now and just live.
He does. He has enough money to go there now. Well, not just to live, but he's at least got enough money for a plane ticket.
Right.
I mean, I flew to Vancouver a few years ago, and it took my wife and 2 kids, and it cost me $2,000.
Yeah.
So,
and this is 1990, so you know he could do it.
And if he took Spirit Airline, I mean he'd probably get he $100 with change back.
But he doesn't. He just wants to go to LA. And Cynthia is like, oh my God, she goes from hot to cold in seconds.
Oh yeah, she's bipolar.
She starts out by going like, it was a great fight. Why the fuck are you going to LA?
Yes. So they get out of the car, and he's walking away because he's had enough of it. He's not listening to it. And she's like, that $5,000's not going to get him anywhere. You convince him to fight for me. Joshua gets out, and he kind of limps after him because Joshua has some sort of limp because of the past with him and Cynthia that we never get any sort of real explanation on, other than the fact that the idea that maybe he used to fight for her.
It's very vague.
Very vague. And this is our next scene where folks just are more than glad to stand around and wait to be beat up. Because they go to make a phone call, and at first I thought a musical number was about to break out.
I wish.
Because when they jumped out, I was like, when you're a jet all the way. Because Jean-Claude Van Damme came to America, JCVD in America.
Jean-Claude.
So
I feel pretty.
They get into a scuffle with some local toughs over the use of a payphone, and because they're trying to get, Joshua says he'll call him a cab to the airport. And what do you mean you won't send a cab to this neighborhood? Yeah. Oh, the social commentary in this movie.
Lay on thicker than butter.
Right. Joshua says at one point that he's been from the Big Apple to the Big Orange, which I was like, okay. He's been to Orlando.
Okay.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah. I was going to say Georgia, but that's like a peach, I think.
Yeah, that's a peach. So we get like a brief montage of LA scenes, so you know that we've changed places in the country. And all I could think of was up next week on Lionheart.
Oh, yeah, and the greatest music again.
Yeah.
It's like... And then, by the way, so we're cutting to L.A. because he's in the hospital looking for his brother. The guy who plays that doctor, give him a fucking Academy Award for that dialogue that he has to say. He somehow made that. No, I was gonna say he somehow made that believable, but I don't think it was. It was just craziest dialogue. Like,
Mr. Gautier, I think they've arrested some individuals. What you need to think about now is his wife and daughter. He left behind some considerable bills.
the guys who set him on fire. It could have been anything. Could have been kids playing a sick prank. That is one sick prank.
So, because of this, because the police have found the people who have done this and they have them in custody, we have no revenge spree. So, what is a concerned movie patron to do? Don't fear, because fighting tournaments are on their way.
Right.
She will not take his money.
That was wild to me because, I knew nothing about this movie other than Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I'm really surprised you hadn't seen this before.
Yeah, no, never. I had heard of the title, and that was it. So I'm expecting, a revenge thriller, and then when he gets back and they're like, yeah, they're in custody. Also, your brother's dead. I guess move on. Wait, what?
So as he's leaving the hospital, he doesn't want to talk to Joshua or anything. Joshua is perving on people coming out of the hospital.
Yes, he is.
Come on, baby. We get another social commentary montage as Van Damme's walking through the downtrodden streets of LA, and we get their "I'm walking here" moment from Joshua.
Oh yeah. He has a real Dustin Hoffman there.
Yeah. So this here is where we find out that Leon's brother was involved in the drug trade years before, and that he had said that the drug shipment that was going to Amsterdam, I think, was his and not his brother's. So this is how he got, somehow his deal to either go to jail or join the French Foreign Legion, because he didn't want his brother to go to jail. To which his wife thinks, you know what, you shouldn't have done that, and you should have just let him go to jail. And we find out that Jean-Claude Van Damme's brother was not strong enough to be jail. Mm-hmm. He says it just like that.
He's not strong enough to be jail. He's a human being.
Well, it's funny because the guy the director,
Sheldon Lettich.
Yes, thank you. He wanted Van Damme to do a lot of talking in this movie. He wanted to have character development and didn't want it to be just some mindless revenge spree. He wanted to make it a little more character driven. So he legitimately wanted to hear Jean-Claude Van Damme say things like, he was not strong enough to be jail. But his sister-in-law is having none of it. She doesn't want anything to do with his money because he couldn't make it there while his brother was dying. And I'm thinking she's super reasonable because he was in North Africa.
Yeah.
The fact that he made it to L.A. At all, it speaks volumes to how he felt for his brother.
But the child, however, is a different story because she tells us, you're a stranger, turns around, my name is Nicole and I'm 5.
Played by Ashley Johnson, also the voice of Ellie in The Last of Us, and the second daughter from Growing Pains.
Oh, okay.
I think she's on The Blind Side, too. Not The Blind Side, Blind Spot.
I was going to say the Sandra Bullock movie?
No, Blind Spot, that television show on NBC with the girl with the tattoos. She's like a lab tech or something on that show.
So what is Jean-Claude Van Damme to do in this situation? And if you said get drunk, you're right.
Well,
Jean-Claude Van Drunk.
With some of the sexiest LA bar ladies.
Yeah. Also, I was really disappointed because I thought that gif of Van Damme dancing, I thought it was from this when he started getting drunk. I was like, oh my God. And then it didn't happen.
No.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Also, there's a part where I saw that they were on St. James's Street, and I was like, where's Bustopher Jones?
Okay. I don't get your reference.
From Cats.
Oh, okay.
James Corden's cat character.
Oh, okay.
That would have been
wasn't paying that close of attention.
Would have been a great cameo.
It would have been weird.
Yeah.
Actually, this came out in 1990, so.
Well, we would have had some explaining to do, but.
Yeah. So Joshua takes him to a friend of his in the city who apparently has this gigantic apartment, which doesn't send up any red flags for anybody for no reason whatsoever.
Who could it be?
Right. It is. It turns out that it's Cynthia's place because he wakes up to her working her Bowflex.
And did she have sex with him while he was passed out?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because it seemed at first like she might have.
Well, you know what? It's entirely possible. I mean,
I don't see how she would. He has one of the worst tattoos I've ever seen.
the lion on his chest.
Oh my god! With an actual, just like a heart on top of it, like.
Well, he is Leon.
Oh, that's just. I mean, it's no Cody Rhodes face tattoo, but got it in.
So, he wakes up. She is doing her workout in a bathing suit that's cut like up to her midrib.
Yeah.
Which was the style at the time, I guess.
And you also see them buns. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
You do. Which was apparently a spot in the movie that was improvised.
What?
Yep. He thought of it. He asked the director if it would be okay if he did it. And the director was like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
I think
don't like it.
I think the people want to see my buns.
And you know what? Here's the thing. That it became a staple after this.
What he's a regular fuck, what the fuck is his name? I'm blanking. Who's that guy who's on all the podcasts?
Who's the guy on all the podcasts?
Oh my god.
Nick Kroll?
No, just forget it.
Okay. I'm sure you'll blurt it out eventually.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I'm looking it up now, so I'll know it in a second.
Okay. She has informed. The reason why you get to see his butt and he's naked is because she informs him that she gave them to the bellhop with instructions to burn them, so they can have a Pretty Woman montage and buy him new clothes.
Oh my god! One thing I didn't expect in this movie was a trying on clothes montage.
Nope. And we get a real brief moment where they have some rooftop wine. Mm-hmm. And the scene is literally a minute long. And then we go back to they go back to the apartment, hotel, or whatever it is that she has there, and he says he's gonna bunk in with Joshua because I'm not your toy. Go call Russell.
And the way they're sitting at the table when they're on their, I guess, sort of date is
Mm-hmm.
almost like they're already a couple. Like the way she's holding his hands and everything.
There's so much stuff that it starts off like you feel like they're in a relationship almost right away,
Yeah.
and then he says something like, "I'm not your toy." It's like, yeah, but you were kind of. I'm not gonna say you're a box tease, Jean-Claude Van Damme, but I mean you were kind of leading her on.
I mean, you let her jerk you off in the changing room.
And look how you were dressed.
Yeah.
I mean, what were you wearing at the time?
Oh dear. Oh, by the way, the person I was trying to think of was Paul F. Tompkins.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Improv. He's a regular Paul F. Tompkins. Nailed it.
There you go. Boom. Done. One take, Jake.
That's right. I'll cut that together to make it. No, I won't. That's too much.
Patreon exclusive. So he says to her that he's gonna. Is this where he says he's gonna fight?
Yeah. Well, no. What does he do here? No, not yet. I think at this point we have the scene where Mariah, who wasn't really watching the movie, just looked up at during and thought I was watching a much different movie because this is where Jean-Claude Van Damme is wearing his hoodie, and he's just like watching from the shadows, like the kids in school. Mariah just looks up. Mariah just looks up and is like, "Is he playing a pedophile?"
No, this was not The Woodsman.
Yeah, because there are
starring
other.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
There's also a later scene where it's almost shot that way if you didn't know, because like he's looking and he's kind of like hiding with his hood up, and then those like French Foreign Legion guys see him, and then you see them like running through the street with this like intense music, and they're looking all over for him, and I'm like, wow,
Catch a Predator.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit! If this was just this scene, I'd be like, I would believe it.
See, what I took away from this scene wasn't so much the creepy vibe to it, was the social commentary, because the little girl who's going to kindergarten is going to school. Well, like cops have like 5 guys lined up under arrest, adult men, and they've got shotguns keeping them at bay while they arrest them in front of like a grammar school.
Oh yeah, those like gangsters or whatever.
Social commentary.
Yeah.
The streets are a mess. Reagan's America.
We do see him going up to a girl, like a homeless girl, and we know they're poor because they have dirt on their faces, like comically.
And this is the best thing, because like he gives her some money and asks her the ball. Is this your ball? Right? The mom comes up. She doesn't say anything. The kid shakes her head yes. Like. I have a note here is that they probably did 2 or 3 takes on this where the director told her, "Don't say yes or we'll have to pay you more."
Yeah.
just nod your head and take the ball and the money.
You are dirt-faced extras. We can only pay you $50 a week.
I think they did get credited as a homeless mom and homeless child, though.
Oh, well, shit, they're featured extras then.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is when he goes back and he's like, I'll fight as long as you give me like a checking account.
Well, he a checking account not under his name. We'll come up with a name. And she's like, yeah, sure. And then this is another situation where she goes from hot to cold in like no time flat, because he says, I'm gonna fight for you, but I have to move out. I can't live here. Mm-hmm. She's like, do I have the right to ask why?
And then
he's like, yeah, it's way too soft here. I can't. I got to be a fighter.
And then,
which there's some truth to that.
Well, and then Nathan, in the extended cut of this scene, she goes even further off the rails.
Does she?
She's like, from now on, our relationship is business, not personal. So you could deal with Russell and get the fuck out of my face.
Oh yeah, I didn't get that.
Nope, she fucking freaks out.
Wow.
She turns into like a jealous ex-girl. I wrote in, it's a real like Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife in Raw Deal moment.
Oh, with the the shit cake.
Oh, it's a real shit cake moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think this is when Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman have their Iron Circle match.
Well, I was gonna say actually, yes, I dubbed it the Starlight Express fight.
Yeah, with the Scotsman.
Well, yeah, because the people who are guiding people in and getting them in the right place, they're all on roller skates.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. And yes, the Scotsman shows up. So I was like, man, should I make Roddy Piper jokes or Conor McGregor jokes? I'm not sure.
And then it ended, and you were like, fuck.
Yeah. We did find out that Joshua wanted to see his dingle.
Yeah. He also kept saying, like, there's a dress. Got to get the dress off. Why is he wearing a dress?
Pull up the dress. Let me see if he's got any drawers on under there.
I was like, Joshua, I think doth protest too much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was the 90s. People weren't, comfortable coming out like that. So, I mean, in fairness, it was the late 80s too, right?
Right.
Not necessarily the 90s.
But JCVD.
The business. Well, yes. He beats him because the Scotsman is apparently wearing a nicely appointed business loafer. He's not wearing like boots or shoes, like sneakers to fight in. He's wearing like wingtips.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he's got his kilt on, and a pair of like sensible businessman shoes.
Well, that's his business, right?
Yeah. So after that, he of course wins the fight, nice and well, not necessarily readily, because there is a bit of a fight and struggle, but he does win. And then we move on to our next scene where we see that the French Foreign Legion have set up their surveillance because we left out that scene.
Right.
The guy who said, no, you can't go see your brother, we're gonna stick you in the sweatbox, he goes to visit the government, I guess the guy who's the head of the French Foreign Legion in France, and says, we need to get him back. And they're like, we're not sending people, okay? He deserted. He's in America. He's America's problems now. We're not going to bother with it. And we'll send word to the cops. And if they're not busy busting gang rapists and drug dealers, and I'm like,
wait,
wow.
People who rape gangs?
Guess, I don't know. I'm trying to find the actual note that I have here. If they're not busy, because he calls him a terrorist, and he says if they're not busy arresting gang rapists, serial killers, and drug dealers, maybe they'll send him back to us.
Wow.
So he says, I'll do you one better. He sends two of his best men to find him. And this is where we catch up with them. They've set up a surveillance. So they're watching Van Damme's sister-in-law's place. So Van Damme doesn't show up, or Léon Gauthier does not show up. Mm-hmm. He, in fact, sends Joshua, dressed as an insurance salesman, to say that your husband left you some money to help you with your bills and to buy your daughter a bike. And this is like one of the only moments in the movie where Joshua is speaking slowly and coherently and at a reasonable volume.
Yeah, it's like he's doing a Danny Glover.
Yeah, and it's weird because if you take into account him doing this in this movie, he's playing, even if it's just for a few minutes, how vastly different the two characters they play. This guy has range, and I feel should have gotten much more play as an actor.
I also feel like if he's able to do this, I don't know why he doesn't do this more often to swindle people.
Or, he was in New York. Broadway's right there.
Yeah.
And he could have been an actor.
Yeah,
but he was Joshua.
He could have been in Cats.
He could have been. He could have been the Idris Elba character.
McCavity.
Stop singing about your cavities.
Oh, well, it hurts.
Yeah, well, quit digging around in there.
All right, I'll make Taylor Swift sing about it.
All right. So Joshua informs the sister-in-law that he's going to be... Oh, her name's Elaine. I'm just keep calling her the sister-in-law. But okay. He says he's going to drop off the checks himself. You know how the post office is around here. I'm like, was the post office like... was it rife with corruption at the time? I don't remember that being a thing.
The post office, Nathan.
How they just don't deliver mail like they're supposed to.
I think there was a lot of problems with post office workers getting really stressed and shooting up the office. So I think that just cleared out a lot of employees at the time. So the post office.
Right.
They're always late.
I suppose there is that. So next we get almost like a little bit of a montage of him fighting and training. In fact, I have the squash match.
Yeah.
Get it? Because it takes place in a squash court. It's a squash match.
Yeah. They all look like stock arenas from a Street Fighter video game.
Oh, and they absolutely are. That's really. And the only real note I had about the squash match was what the hell is up with the guy's boots?
You have a real fixation on boots.
Oh, he had some weird boots on. I'm just saying, who fights in boots like that?
What do you have, fucking Iron Sheik boots or something?
No, they were like these. They were almost like puffy cowboy boots. If you can picture such things. So we got from that the squash court match to the training. So Le Little Mac, because in France, Lil Mac from Punch Out is just Little Mac, but. He's not a Royale with cheese or anything. He's Lil Mac because it's the same thing. It's a measurement thing.
Are you talking about
Lil Mac?
Are you talking about the drained pool fight?
No, because we show him. You show him training with his hoodie on. He's running and training and stuff again, so he looks like Lil Mac from Punch Out, which is where I was going with that joke.
Gotcha.
Then we go to the pool fight with some some fantastic 80s swimwear. Again, with not only his singlet, which is like I can't believe, has Rob Van Dam ever wrestled in a straight black singlet like this? Because if he didn't, missed opportunity.
The guy he's fighting looks like a samurai cop.
Little bit, yeah. We, of course, because this is at a pool, there's all kinds of people wearing swimwear, 80s swimwear. So again, cut up to the rib.
Yeah.
So nothing but, moose knuckles and camel toes.
By the way, that dude was set to straight up murder him.
Oh my God. Yes, he was drown him. And the thing with when the guy comes down to the pool to fight, he comes over the horizon, down the side of the mountain, full of mystique, and then he gets to the side of the pool and goes, "Yeah!"
Mystique dead.
I'm like, yep, exactly, totally dead. Just kills every bit of mystique and anything that he had going on for him.
Just like the movie Dark Phoenix, Mystique was killed.
Oh, spoilers.
Sorry. It happens like 15 minutes into the movie.
Oh, okay. And we do find out through all this pool fight that Van Damme is obviously a pure-hearted soul, because he doesn't leave the other guy to drown as he fell face down in the water. He drags him out of the water and wins the fight.
Yeah, he's a good egg.
Yeah, good guy. Good guy.
However, Cynthia, when she finds out about the checks that Joshua has been giving to
Hélène Gauthier.
To what?
Hélène Gauthier.
Yeah, the sister-in-law.
Yeah. Yep.
She's basically like, what, is he fucking her?
Yeah, she is. Whew. For a lady who is supposed to be as successful as she is, pretty thin-skinned when it comes to the ego and the love department.
Who do we know like that in real life?
I don't know. I do have some fun notes here, because she really starts ramping up the outfits when they get to LA.
Oh my God, yes. They get better and better.
Yeah, I was like, man, she is like a proto Bev Goldberg. Just at one point, I think she's wearing like glass that is stitched together to make a jacket.
Oh, and she's got that great like giant hat at one point.
Yeah,
like with the thin rim.
And that, of course, her hair is almost Bridget Nielsen-esque at sometimes.
She reminded me a lot of Bridget Nielsen.
Yeah. I get that for sure.
But so after this is when the French Foreign Legion guys track him down again.
Yes, because they he takes off down the street. They take off after her. The mom comes out and takes Nicole inside and just leaves that brand new bike laying in the middle of the street in that neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
But he
just didn't get that bike back. There's no way.
he gets saved by Lockjaw Squareface.
Yes. Russell.
Yeah, and he's like, you can either run away from them or come with me. And he's like, I guess I'm coming with you, God East. And I think they broke one of his ribs. And when he's at the hospital, the dude's like, you need to learn karate, man.
Yeah, he goes and he sees Dr. Nick.
My prescription, karate.
Don't tell anyone. Here's for $100. Sure, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. He just don't tell anyone my ribs are broken. Yeah, no problem, man. Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is where Cynthia shows up, and she's got the giant black hat and like that red dress suit with like weird flame type symbols on it.
Yeah.
And she's trying to pretend to be nice, and I'm like, Jean-Claude, how the fuck are you falling for this?
I don't know.
Did you watch the rest of the movie?
Because like even in like the end where he's like where he's gonna take Elaine and Nicole and you away from all this ugliness, and Cynthia too if she wants to come. Like, dude, she is the ugliness. This is where we find out she's kind of losing her where she kind of really starts to turn against him because she's bringing in this other guy, Attila.
Yeah.
And he looks like Andre El Gigante.
Well, it's
Like
also
he's a cross between El Gigante or Giant Gonzalez and Andre the Giant.
he is. He kind. I actually wrote down that he was like it's like if Rusev was The Rock's cousin.
There you go. That's a good comparison too.
This is where Cynthia is basically. We find out that she's got some plot now, to make all. So she tricks all these investors into looking at this footage of Attila getting the shit kicked out of him, and being like, "Oh, see, he sucks," because she like cuts off the tape where he actually made his comeback and annihilated his opponent.
Yes.
And she's like, "So you should definitely vote for. You should definitely put all your money behind Leon in this fight against Attila." And she secretly puts all her money on Attila because she thinks Attila is going to destroy him. In that scene, too, where she's like tricking the investors, she has a great dress with like giant diamonds on it.
Yes. I think that was when I said it looked like she was wearing glass that was stitched together to make a jacket.
Yeah, I believe that is an accurate description. I love how they cut between Jean-Claude and Attila, because we see Attila arrive and he's all tough and everything, and then we see Jean-Claude just in a playground playing with some kids.
Did you? One of the funnier bits in this whole this exchange has been happening so quickly. One of the investors, or it was either the German. No, it was either the German or the British guy, calls him Mr. Lionheart. Do they think that's his name? Like his last name? Like it's kayfabe name.
Leon Lionheart.
Leon Lionheart, Mr. Lionheart.
He's almost like Chris Jericho's old gimmick.
Yeah. And so they're saying that there's like 12 there's going to be like 12 million on this fight. Something like some ridiculous amount.
She puts her whole fortune into it.
Oh, old Joshua, bless his heart. This is where he tries to figure out what's going on with him and with Cynthia, and he thinks he knows something's up because of this Attila guy coming in. This is where we get a vague illusion as to what was their past, because he says, "I'm just kind of thinking of the way you did me."
Yeah, or he's talking about their relationship.
Well, we are again. He mentioned earlier in the movie too about how he fought for her, and they just when she was done with him, she left him this busted up mess.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that in his younger days he would have had a relationship with her, because in his younger days she would have been in primary school. He's old. I'm just gonna say
he's quite a bit older than everyone else, which makes me wonder, like, how long ago was this?
Yeah,
because he's like conservatively in his early 50s.
Yeah.
I do like how Attila is like this big tough dude, but he has like a fuzzy little white cat.
Well, I mean, that's I guess it's supposed to make him menacing in a Bond villain-esque kind of way.
Oh yeah, I was like, this is Blofeld, 100%.
Yeah. And it's funny, when he shows up to the final fight, I said I changed my description of him. He does to me he didn't look like a cross between Andre the Giant and Elegante. He looked like Andre the Ragnar.
I'm Ragnar,
because the way his hair was.
Yeah.
And apparently Attila does not believe in the idea of staying on your opponent during a fight, because he just lets him have casual conversations with Joshua, between the beatdowns.
Oh, he just like walks away completely.
To pet his cat. Like, he walks over to like pet his cat and stuff like that, while Leon is having discussions with Joshua first about how he wants to take him away from all this stuff, and I mean, it's gonna be better. And I
mean, let's face it, Nathan, that would be my fighting style,
right? And then he goes back in for another bit of a beatdown, and he gets beat up again, of course, and so he has another little discussion with Joshua, where we find out that Joshua is when he placed his bet, he bet against Lionheart. So the only person betting on Lionheart in the Lionheart camp is Lionheart.
And that just hulks him the fuck up.
It does, and it's so funny because he tells him wrong bet, and he gets up and he starts fighting, and then Attila tries to hulk up himself because he points his finger at Van Damme, like the Hulkster getting, like, after he comes out of his Hulk up, and the guy would hit him, and then the Hulk would just, he would shake his head, shake his finger, and then, like, get hit again, and then he'd point, and he'd like, you! And he tried to do that, but that only works for the Hulkster. And Jean-Claude Van Damme kicked his hand right out of his face.
Yeah, right out of his face.
Yeah.
He kicked the leg out from under his leg.
And so because of this newfound energy, he manages to quickly debilitate Attila, and then just starts raining down Karate Kid 2 punches. Just that drum punch that Daniel does at the end of Karate Kid 2.
And at the same time, he's about to deliver the final blow. And when it goes over to Cynthia and she's like breathing heavy, that
heaving, she's hot.
Oh.
She is turned on so bad right now.
And I'm just gonna say, the twins almost come out.
Oh my god!
Like it's so close. She is so close to just slipping out of that dress.
Yep.
Like I wonder if there was a second take of that where she was like, "Oops."
So she had, Attila loses, so it means that she lost her bet, and she's trying to scurry on away. The British chap stops her and says, "Thank you for such wonderful advice." And she scurries away, and we come to find out that the bet that she made was with an unsecured marker, which means that she doesn't have the money that she bet with her.
Wah, wah. Wow.
So she's taken by security, and says, if you find that bitch, don't let her off the property.
Probably gonna be murdered.
Well, no, she has the money in New York. She'll have it for them for tomorrow. She says that. I mean, it's a terrible loss, but I feel a girl like her or a woman like her is probably going to be just fine.
Okay.
If there had been a sequel, we might have seen Cynthia's revenge.
Oh, why didn't they?
Lionheart 2, Cynthia's revenge.
Yeah. Also, so after this fight, when they go back, and he's like, the French Foreign Legion guys kind of drag him out, and they're like, okay, we'll go back to the house and let you say your goodbyes or whatever. Jean-Claude Van Damme has an almost Neil Breen-esque disregard for where his blood goes on other people.
Yeah.
It just hugs the kid, and I'm like, your face is full of blood.
Yeah, you're walking a hamburger. Oh, scene we left out? When the French Foreign Legions guys agree to go along with Cynthia so they can watch him get beat up.
Oh, yeah, that's earlier. Yeah, they're like, we'd like to watch.
He says something like really loud in I don't think it was German, and then he just stops and says, "Can we watch?"
Yeah.
I was like, that's not what you said. There were a lot more words, and your intention, sir, was much, much louder.
Maybe they decided that they would say something else.
Oh, maybe.
But they do. So this part of the movie is crazy because the French Foreign Legion guys are like waiting. They're like, all right, say goodbyes. We're going to take you, and you're going to be court-martialed back in Djibouti. And they get him in the car. And they drive off, and then they stop. By the way, they never tell the driver to stop. The car just stops. And then they're like, you know what? You can go. You're a good fighter. You take care of that family there, basically. And I'm like, so did you know before you started driving? Like, why did you make him
Why did you drive like 4 blocks away and make him run back over the horizon?
That's what I mean. I'm like, did you want him to have that like heroic return to see the family?
The best part is every time we see them, they're trying to catch him. They're doing everything to catch him. They fight him. They say, okay, yeah, you can have him beat to a pulp and we'll take him away. And then after the fight's over, they're like proud of him for fighting as well as he did. And they're so proud of him, they're willing to just ignore direct orders from their superiors and let the prisoner go.
Yeah. Like, they're going to be in deep shit when they get back.
Like, they apparently changed their mind and filed no report whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that they like do it like somewhere down the road. I'm like, wow, dicks, just tell me now in front of my family. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And
you know what? If they could have done that, and not only would everybody been happy, they would have looked like heroes.
Right, exactly. Now it just looks like he escaped.
Yeah.
Which
we get one last what the hell from Joshua.
Yeah, because now he's gonna live with Joshua and his brother's widow and her daughter, I guess.
Did they get does he get the money? They never.
I don't.
Choreographed by Frank Dux.
Oh boy.
Because that's it. They roll the credits, and that's like one of the first things I remember seeing in the credits was the choreographed by Frank Dukes.
He's nuts.
Yeah.
So that's Lionheart.
So that's Lionheart, man. Yeah.
Well, Nathan, I think it goes without saying, but are you recommending this one?
Oh, absolutely. This was another one that was bootleg worthy when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's a wild one. Obviously, there are some things that make no sense, but it is Jean-Claude Van Damme in
at his Van Dammedest.
Yeah, that sweet spot. I will say, out of all the like big action stars at the time with, let's say, less than stellar acting chops, like we're talking. I mean, I think Stallone may be in the upper echelon there, honestly, because he's had some genuinely very good performances. But at the time, I'd say people like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude, Seagal for sure, Chuck Norris, those guys. I think Jean-Claude Van Damme might be like the most like charming out of all of them.
It's because he's he's not muscle bound, first of all. And so you get that. There's also the whole. I mean, yeah, he's from Brussels, but I mean, you get that whole the suave French thing going on. Again, he's not really a big guy.
Yeah.
So he's one of those guys who you wouldn't feel intimidated hanging out with.
No, and I mean, I've heard, obviously, there's stories of him, especially during this era where he probably wasn't the easiest person to work with.
Yeah.
But he comes across a lot more affable, I guess, than a lot of these people, especially when you're talking about people like Steven Seagal, who is a total dickweed in every single sense of the word.
Oh, yeah, it took one hit movie for him to get up there, right?
Yeah, so he can fucking burn in hell. For many reasons. But anyway, okay. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
What were they thinking?
What Were They Thinking is brought to you by HostGator. HostGator is a leading provider of shared, reseller, VPS, and dedicated hosting solutions. Award-winning support is available 24/7, 365 days a year via phone, email, and live chat. Discover why over 9 million websites trust HostGator. Use the coupon code SCHLUCK for 25% off your first purchase. That's SCHLUCK, SCHLOCK, for 25% off your first purchase.
What Were They Thinking is brought to you today by GameItAll.com. Whether it's video game news, the latest in music, or movie reviews, GameItAll.com is your one-stop shop for all nerdy talk.
What were they thinking?
We're back.
Yes, we are back.
Yo, Nathan, it's time for the low haiku.
Ooh, it's a little sing-song intro for our low haiku.
The low haiku is poetry. 17 syllables. Breaking down the movie that we just watched.
Ooh, I took a sharp turn there.
Yeah, well, But yeah, we're going to do our low haiku. Did you want to start us off?
Yeah, I would love to.
Sure.
Fight for his family. Lion in a concrete jungle. Was bootleg worthy.
Very good, very good. Jean-Claude, buns and kicks. Shit. God damn. Motherfucker. Video game film? Thank you. Ba 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 ba.
Ba-ba-da-ba.
Nathan, what do we say after we talk about the movie?
We always say.
Don't take a word for it.
Yeah, don't take our word for it. What I will say here is there are very few critics' reviews. So, despite it being at 27%, I think there's like 12 reviews.
Okay.
So, I mean, not a lot to like grab from. Audience rating is 52%. So still considered rotten, but just not by much. But let's get into this here. So one of the first critics' reviews here is from Michael Wilmington of the Los Angeles Times, and he says, the scriptwriters, first-time directors Shelton Lettich and Van Damme himself, dream up the worst things that could possibly happen, then they try to kick their way out of them.
Okay. Andrew L. Urban from Urban Cinephile wrote, accompanied by an occasional jazzy score, the film has a solid dramatic base on which to build the Jean-Claude Van Damme action. Occasional jazzy score?
Yeah, just once in a while.
Yeah.
Not throughout the entire movie, right?
No.
This one is one of those reviews we love where people try to be funny and it always works out perfectly. This is from Richard Harrington of the Washington Post.
Okay.
As Lionheart heads for his final confrontation, the film's soundtrack blasts out a Rocky-like song called No Mercy. Unless you're a Van Damme or martial arts fanatic, you're more likely to be thinking, no merci.
He didn't even spell no right in French.
Maybe he's doing like Van Damme did in the movie where he just occasionally says French words for some reason.
Oh, yes. C'est très joli.
Is that French? Yes, sorry. I feel like that was an accident.
My daddy speaks French.
Your daddy is burnt to a crisp.
Caffeinated Clint from Movie Hole in 2005 wrote, one of Van Damme's best flicks. Good story, good skirmishes, 3 out of 5.
Ooh, best flick, 3 out of 5. All right, let's get into it. This is the part.
Okay.
This is the part we love. The audience reviews.
Everybody comes for.
Yeah, you come here for the audience. Mr. S sums it up real well. He gives it 3 stars. He says, "Great movie from the past."
Well, Matt S. They're probably related.
Oh shit.
Writes 5 stars. Van Damme in a fight club for charity. Great action, great story, iconic.
Fight Club for charity.
I'm the balls to call it iconic. I mean, it's a good Van Damme movie, but iconic.
Yeah, I mean this is.
I think if I think of Van Damme iconic movie, I think Bloodsport.
Yeah, or even like
Maybe
if we're talking like later stuff that was like reflective on his whole career, JCVD was pretty great.
Oh, that movie's fantastic.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen it and you're like, even if you're like, Jean-Claude Van Damme, whatever, JCVD is genuinely a great movie. Like it's not just like, oh, it's so crazy. It's really good. Really, really
and
good.
that his soliloquy in like towards the end of it, so good.
Oh yeah, he does some fucking acting in that movie.
Yeah.
Tasha S. And I just thought this was funny the way this is
all
worded.
the S family came out this week.
All the S's. She says, "This is the best Van Damme movie in my opinion, and I don't really get into very many of his movies, so that's saying something." 5 stars. Is it though? That says like the opposite to me. Like, I don't usually like his movies, and this is the best one, so you know it's good. Okay.
Well, Ryan C. He gave it
Seacrest.
5 stars. Yeah, Seacrest. Isn't that with an S?
He's been a lot more stylish these days.
Okay. He wrote, one of my all-time favorite Van Damme films. Up there with Hard Target, Bloodsport, and Time Cop. The action is great. Plot is absurd. It is a good time.
2 stars?
5.
Okay. Oh boy, do I want to read this one? This one is a mouthful, and okay, we're gonna go for it. Gary T writes, and I'm just reading this as it's written, and I apologize in advance, everyone that's listening. Wow. So bad. Man, this is such an awful, messy movie to watch. It is so dreadful. It is such an awful movie to watch. It is so awful movie to watch. It is so dreadful. It is so dreadful. It is such an awful movie to watch. It is such an awful, messy movie to watch. Warning, this movie contains strobe lightning effects throughout this movie. Man, this is such an awful movie to watch. It's just such an awful, messy movie to watch. It is such an awful movie to watch. It is such a bad movie to watch. Just avoid this movie at all. It is such a bad movie to watch. Just avoid this movie at all costs. It is that bad. Just do not watch this movie. It is so awful. It's got a good soundtrack throughout this movie, but man, this movie is so awful to watch. 1 star.
Wow.
Oh.
And all the 2 watches, they're the number 2, aren't they?
Yep, and it's all capital letters.
Oof. Well, James R. Kept it a little more
James
succinct.
Remar.
Yeah, obviously. Gave it 3.5 stars. Wrote, great fighting scenes are present here.
Was that review written by a robot?
Must be, I don't know.
Yes, there was fighting in this film. Okay, this one's a lot shorter. Andy I gives it 4 stars, and he says, off to watch this and read a bit of my Johnny Cash autobiography. Night night, folks.
Oh, okay.
Did you think this is his Facebook account?
I guess so. Chris H. So obviously Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Wrote classic Van Damme.
I was going to say, I thought it was the Wildcat Chris Harris.
Oh, well, it could be. I'm pretty sure it's Hemsworth. I mean, but classic Van Damme. A man trying to save his dead brother's family by participating in fight clubs run by the extremely wealthy. There is enough awful dramatic acting, cheesy but awesome fight scenes, and comedy to make this a fun watch. 3 stars.
I like the Chris Hemsworth is given some is taking some time out of his busy schedule to do some Rotten Tomatoes reviews. Besides, if it had been Wildcat Chris Harris, he obviously would have posted under his name that everyone remembers him for, Braden Walker.
Braden Walker, yes, of course.
And his great catchphrase, I'm Braden Walker, and I'm going to knock your head off. How did that not take off, Nathan?
I don't know. I don't know, man. That's a license to print money. That's what that is.
The charisma of Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my last one I have here from Serge S. I'm assuming this is the same character from Beverly Hills Cop, but I will not read it like that because it's long.
Aw.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
The lion bites again, and then a bunch of dashes. There are only a few things that make a really great Van Damme action flick. First, you gotta show off his bod. Van Damme's awe-inspiring body inspires me. Bloodsport and Kickboxer are him at his best. He's gained a favorable reputation from his physique. 2, sweeping kicks in slow motion. Jean-Claude Van Damme continues to be in shape, and you ought to be amazed when he kicks a man. Lionheart has, in all capital letters, a lot of fighting! Damn retains his ab-burning, ripped physique that gives him on-screen time an extra kick. What the fuck? It's an awesome movie. It has some pretty good heartfelt moments too. Who saw that coming? 5 stars.
Well, this is my last one. It's from Alan C.
Oh,
and
Alan Cumming.
Obviously. Writes, Jean-Claude Van Damme gets involved in the underground fight circuit, but sadly does not have a pet orangutan, Sandra Locke as a girlfriend, or a wacky biker gang chasing him.
Oh.
2.5 stars.
A reference to a Clint Eastwood film.
Yes, any which way but loose.
Yeah, that's coming soon probably for that one.
Huh. I'll probably defend it, and one of my our furry friend would probably defend it as well.
I mean, I do have to give credit to Sandra Locke just for living the life she's lived. But anyway, those are the reviews. Right?
Yes, they are, Ron Burgundy.
Go fuck yourself. Doop-de-doo.
Good show tonight. Good show.
Good hustle. Great
show.
Great hustle on the floor.
Good show, everyone.
But yeah, those are the reviews, and now we are going to give a hint, or I'm going to give a hint, for our next week's film. Cyrano de Bergerac. There you go. Do with that what you will. Nathan, is Montrose in the room?
He is.
Okay.
Montrose in the house.
In the house, yes. It's a house party in here.
Yes, and ain't no party like a Montrose house party, because the Montrose party don't stop. Hello! It's your good friend
Hi.
Montrose Monkington the Third. Stop it.
Oh, sorry.
You interrupt me. Montrose Monkington III, Esquire. I'd like to invite you to enjoy my YouTube channel, Montrose Monkington TV, where you can see all kinds of clips with me, your lovely cutie Montrose. You can also be friends with me on Facebook, on my Facebook page, Montrose Monkington III, Esquire, and friends. And you can also tweet me on Twitter at Montrose the Third. That's the number 3 D. Good job, gentlemen, watching some fine cinema this week, and thank you. More later. Do you have any more clips of that Eastern European movie show that you played at the first of the film or the podcast?
You got a whole. I think there's like 6 or 7 tapes back there. You could just take them.
You sure? I think it would be fun. They seemed intelligent.
I mean, we do have some laser discs there too, if you can play them.
Ooh, I do love a good laser disc. I will take my leave of you. Thank you, gentlemen. More later.
Stay 6 feet away.
I would rather stay 10 feet from you.
Oh, there's the charm.
Get bent.
Wow. Well,
Yeah, after you gave him all those tapes and laser discs.
I know, right?
Unappreciative. What a jerk.
Yeah. Well, he grabbed the unlabeled one, so he's in for a shocker. Oh, I hope he doesn't report us. Anyway, that's it for this week. You can find us on all the podcatchers. Just search for us. We are there. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at WWTT Podcast. Search for us on Facebook. We're there. We're there on Facebook. You can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/WWTT Podcast, where you can sign up for all kinds of cool stuff. Right now, if you are a patron at any tier level, you can actually pick a movie for us to do on a future episode. So if you are a patron right now and you haven't given us a pick yet, please do so. If you're not and you want to become one, please. And then let us know what you want us to do. We'll do basically any movie except for, we'll let you know. It's basically everything except 2 movies in the world that I'm pretty sure you won't pick. So don't worry about it.
And I mean, if you've listened to the show before, you know what ones they are.
Exactly. And I think that's about it. Yeah. Oh, I should mention too, live stream for The Cure we're also doing again this year. So check that out. We might as well just announce what we're doing now.
Sure.
Yeah, we're talking about Reefer Madness, or its original title. What was the original title?
Warn your children.
Yeah, warn your children.
Tell your children or something like that.
That's the original black and white short. So you can easily find that online. That is public domain.
It's public domain. It's on the Internet Archive.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that Thursday, May 28th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Wow, nailed it.
Good job.
But yeah, I think that's it. I guess I just have questions now.
Well, I'm more than glad to answer your questions, but I think we should get a guy in here who has reviewed this movie before to answer your questions, because he's probably a more an aficionado than I am.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So,
Oh, yes. I leave shoes out there. Hey, you want me talking to microphone?
Yeah, Milos, just Brendan's. You're gonna do the bit with Brendan at the end. You're gonna answer his question.
We talk about Gugino?
No, we just talked about Lionheart, so you're gonna answer.
Is good movie. Saw it in Berlin. Trip was shorter because of no wall.
Oh, Milos. Well, I've got some questions for you about it.
Oh, do you? I will be glad to help any way I can, Mr. Brendan.
Well, in a movie, in which you can apparently go to the French Foreign Legion instead of going to prison.
It sounds. I think ninjas do that all the time.
True. We should talk to our friend Sam about that.
Mm-hmm. Morovich?
Not quite.
Oh.
In a movie in which there is some sexy baby making saxophone.
Was style at time.
In a movie in which there is a Roadhouse-esque line of "You're kind of pretty. I don't know whether to fight you or fuck you."
Oh yes.
In a
I use that pickup line all time.
How does it work out for you?
60% of time it work all the time.
That doesn't make sense.
Oh.
In a movie in which a child sadly says, which we didn't mention, but sadly says, "I'll just go draw myself a bike."
Okay.
And in a movie in which the supporting character, I could barely understand 70% of his dialogue.
He was a mumbly man for sure.
I just gotta know, Milos.
What is that, Mr. Brendan?
What were they thinking?
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. It's in the night away. It's in the night away. He drinks a whiskey drink. He drinks a vodka drink. He drinks a lager drink. He drinks a cider drink. He sings the songs that remind him of the good times. He sings the songs that remind him of the best times. Oh, Danny boy, Danny boy, Danny boy. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Hey, I heard you like movies.
I heard you like to hustle.
I heard you like podcasts.
Well, guess what?
There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle.
Damn right.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us.
But do we actually talk about the movie?
Most of the time. Tangents galore.
Yes.
So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We might talk about video games,
Music.
Yeah, that's the big one. Music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there.
Yes.
Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ.
Yes.
I am the master storyteller of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you could think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers, the Google Play, Apple Podcasts,
What else?
Podbean,
What else?
Podcast Addict,
Goddamn.
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ. We gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair say all that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Don't run the listeners away, PJ.
I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.